Alrighty. All right. So, hi everyone. I'm Eric with Cineblab.
I'm Chris with Cineblab.
And today we saw the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And we have things to say.
For sure. So, pretty big, influential movie, obviously. Big up there as far as the early action movies that have kind of inspired things that have come today. I definitely saw a lot of movies that drew inspiration from this.
That's true. I'd never seen this movie before, but I could definitely see that influence in a lot of other movies that I have watched throughout the years.
Yeah, this was one of my dad's favorite movies when I was a kid, or at least I think it was. He had it on VHS, and so I used to see this a little bit when I was a younger kid, when he would put it on the VHS there when it wasn't, like Popeye or something like that. Because I was super little when I first saw this.
Now that I think about it, I think I like movies as much as I do because of my dad. Mm-hmm. He definitely imparted that into me. Yeah. Like, he would take me to watch movies all the time, and he bought me tapes, and we would watch them together over and over and over again. This is like a hobby that we shared together. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember him once ever mentioning Indiana Jones. That's probably why I've never seen it before.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for me too. Me and my dad used to go see movies together all the time, and have DVDs and Blu-rays and VHSs before that. And it was one of my favorite things to do, is to find a movie that I could show to him. We kind of talk to each other about it, and see what his thoughts were on it. That's like a childhood memory for me, and I think that's part of the reason also why I like them so much.
Same.
And so it's interesting that we share that, you know what I mean? But so Steven Spielberg directed this one, but based on a story that was written by George Lucas from Star Wars fame, which is what we did in episode 1.
Which I thought, what an incredible team up.
Right.
Wouldn't you be so fortunate as to have Steven Spielberg and George Lucas work together in a movie for you? Yeah, and
so I think this was the first time that they ever worked together, like professionally on a movie, and I think that it really is kind of an amalgamation of their two styles, like combined together in one, in like a way that works most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. They're like two heavy hitters in the industry. Yeah. You really can't go wrong.
So the movie itself, starts with Harrison Ford, who's Indiana Jones, in Peru, and he's got to get a MacGuffin.
The way they introduced him, though, I thought was great.
Yes,
it was like the turnaround whip, right?
Yeah, they got
good. Such a good introduction for his character.
Yes, one of his guides is trying to shoot him with the pistol, and he hears the cock of the hammer getting pulled back, and whips the gun right out of his hand.
Yeah, I was sad that Alfred Molina passed away so early into the movie. I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, hell yeah, Alfred Molina's in this.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Obviously, everyone knows him as Dr. Octopus, from the second Spider-Man movie from 2004 or whatever it was.
I don't remember.
It was the early 2000s.
But it's the best one. I don't remember when it came out, but it's the best one.
Yeah.
Hands down.
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans have a place in my heart, and it was cool to see Dr. Octopus as like a young man in this, playing a Peruvian guy.
Yeah. He was two-timing in Indy. Yeah, he was two-timing Indy.
You betray Indy and you die. That's something that's worth noting in this movie.
That's true. If you're not on his side, you're dead.
Let's talk about the monkey for a second. Later on, there's a monkey that betrays Indy, and I can promise you the monkey doesn't make it.
No one that betrays him makes it.
Yeah. And so, ironically enough, also, he's in constant danger in this movie. He's perfectly fine all the time. Besides maybe the Fast and the Furious movies, I don't think I've ever seen anyone avoid death so many times.
And it's also portrayed in a very slapstick way. Like, he runs into bullets, sees the bullets, and kind of scurries out of the frame.
Yeah.
While dodging every bullet.
Like a guy opens fire, with a machine gun at him. You know what I mean? He's just like, whoop, 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 he walks behind a wall. Just 1,001 bullets just missing.
Yeah, it's so good. It is a legend, though.
It is slapstick, right? And so this is not like a serious movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, it is in some ways, but like it's a joke for the most part.
Yeah.
You know,
it doesn't take itself too seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's done in a very tasteful way. Like the whole vibe of it meshes well together.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find like any part of the movie didn't quite fit it well. I thought it was very well put together.
And I think some of that has to do with the editing of the movie, which was done by Steven Spielberg's like lifetime editor, which is Michael Kahn. And I think he's edited every movie Steven Spielberg has ever done except for E.T., which I think came out the same year, maybe the year after, in like 1982. And so this was like a period where Steven Spielberg is at the top of his game. He's at a creative frenzy. You know, it's like 6 years after Jaws, you know what I mean? And like around the same time as like E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which were like some of his big movies. And so this was probably, I think...
he directed Catch Me If You Can, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I love that movie.
With Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
That movie's so good.
Yeah, so that was like 2005 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just did West Side Story a couple months ago as well.
Which I haven't seen, but I've heard very high reviews from people.
Yeah, he's got like an Academy Award nomination for that and everything. And so he's obviously still...
He's arguably still at the top of the game.
Right. That's exactly right. And so this was really interesting, like I said, in the fact of George Lucas, right, who writes this thing. He's sort of known for his large-scale sort of like experimental kind of things, right? And so I think this is a weird character for George Lucas to write in a certain regard, you know what I mean? Because he... isn't really like trying to save like the entire world or something like that. His main motivation is to get like this item. You know what I mean? It just so happens that he falls into this storyline of like the Nazis are trying to take the Ark of the Covenant to make their army immortal or invincible or something like that. So he stumbles into it. But originally he just wants to get like this golden idol to make some money from this museum or whatever, right? To pay his mortgage or something like that.
I think it's just to fund more trips, right? Because he was saying something about that he needed money for a trip.
Yeah, so
I think he's just trying to get money to fund his expeditions.
I think he's just trying to go on vacation.
As much that's true.
As he can.
He definitely didn't look like he wanted to be in that classroom at all.
So he's an archaeologist, right? And this was I thought a really cool scene. Actually, he's teaching or whatever, and the girls have "love you" written across their eyelids, and they're winking at him, sending him secret messages. Yeah. He's such a heartthrob. Okay,
he was hella handsome.
I mean, definitely, right? I think Harrison Ford was like in his early 30s or something like that when this movie came out, and I mean,
top of his game.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. He was a handsome dude, but they definitely played that up quite a little bit with the girls in college just swooning after him, right?
But it's like his character. He's suave in these, he's got that pizzazz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do think that like he was sort of among the first sort of like that I remember anyway, like the heartthrob hero in a certain regard, right? Like Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, he's the hero, right? But he's sort of the young kid, like I'm just learning my way kind of thing, right?
He's not like
and then the
leather jacket cool.
Remember Yojimbo? He's just the badass, the penultimate badass. You know what I mean? And Burn After Reading, Brad Pitt's just the doofy moron that gets shot in the face, right? But this one, he's like I'm smooth and I know it, ladies. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that's been done time and time again. But I'm probably wrong. There probably have been other, archetypes of that before. For sure. But that's the first one that I remember anyway in my childhood, right? As a super kid, seeing that kind of guy. It didn't resonate with me as strong as Star Wars. Yeah, Indiana Jones. I don't want to be Indiana Jones, right? Like getting shot at with arrows and everything, but I wanted to be Luke Skywalker, with the lightsaber.
Luke had a lightsaber.
And so
the lightsaber is like the ultimate cool.
Yeah. So let's get into another part here, right? Yeah. So in the beginning, he's in Peru and he has to get this MacGuffin, right? And then the MacGuffin gets stolen from him by his rival, which is the guy called Belloc, which is like his rival archaeologist.
So the MacGuffin, not the MacGuffin, the idol had no connection to the
the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant, right?
I don't think so.
It was
I think
completely
Belloc
separate.
was just stealing it to be a dick.
Yeah, okay. That was just like them establishing, like, this is what Indy does.
This is what he does,
and
right?
this is
like
the other guy that also does what he does.
Typical Tuesday for Indy.
Okay.
Almost dying, you know? So he goes back, right, and these U.S. Army guys are like, hey, we just intercepted cables that said that the Nazis are digging, excavating something in Tanis, Egypt. And you know why they might be doing that? And the reason I'm seeing you, Indiana Jones, is because your former mentor, which is this guy named Abner Ravenwood, he was in the Nazi cables. So what do you think they want with him? You know what I mean? Like, he was your mentor. What do you think that the Nazis are after? And he's like, obviously they're after the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was he in the movie at all? No, right?
No. Because as soon as he goes to Nepal, one of the first things that the character there of Marion, which is his love interest, says is that my dad, your mentor, is dead.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And so he's like, dang, well, you got his what was that thing called? The medallion or something?
The medallion, yeah.
Yeah, do you still have that medallion?
MacGuffin number 2.
MacGuffin number 2. This movie is absolutely chock full of MacGuffins. There's the Staff of Ra. There's the medallion. There's the Ark of the Covenant.
But the staff is like a red herring because the staff never comes into play.
Barely.
They just throw it out there. It's like, oh, there's a staff.
Yeah, there's a staff. And then, like, he just has the staff in his hand in the next scene. But so let's talk about the Nepal scene, right? Because I think this is like...
Nepal, the bar.
The bar scene. So I think this is like one of the most critical and crucial parts of the whole movie is this bar scene right here because it really casts a shadow and like a stain on the character of Indiana Jones, in my opinion. And so I'm going to let you take this one.
So you're talking about the line.
I'm talking about that line.
Okay. So it's just called Marianne.
Marianne.
Right. So Marianne tells Indy when they're at the bar, when they're meeting, they haven't met in 10 years.
Yeah.
And at first she's all smiles and you as the audience member thinks like, oh, so they have like history or they're friends or they get along. And then she slaps him. And she tells him, I was just a kid.
She's like,
what was the line?
She's like, I loved you. I loved you, and then you left. I was just a child.
I was just a child, yeah.
And you knew what you were doing.
You knew what you were doing.
And she's like, I know what I'm doing now, you son of a bitch, or something like that.
There's the implication that he did something with her when she was a minor.
Yes, that's 100% it.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's dirty on realm number 1 because he has this mentor, this older mentor.
Which honestly, why would you even include that in your movie?
That is really the question.
Why would you?
Why did this element need to be in the movie of Indiana Jones?
It could have been anything. He could have stolen something that her dad found. Anything.
Right. He could have stolen money from their bank account. He could have.
But
whatever.
No. Yeah. They decided to go with.
He's having an affair with his mentor's underage daughter, and it ends badly. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Kind of interesting that that's how they decided to go.
There's like 3 sentences dedicated to this, and then a 4th sentence like way later on when they're in the airplane on the way home, which I forgot what that was, but they mention it like in 4 sentences throughout the whole movie, this like whole illicit affair from when he was younger. And I'm just like, who the fuck is Indiana Jones?
Who is he? What does he do around the world? Like, is this part of his MO?
Why did this relationship end? Why did it begin, right? Why did it end, right? And now that he's back 10 years later, like, how awkward is that? Like, hey,
that's true,
buddy. So,
and he came after that. He's like, listen, it doesn't matter that I fondled you. I need the medallion.
So here's $3,000, by the way, for it. And 2 more when we get back to the United States. Let's never talk about that again.
Except later in the movie.
Certainly not out loud. Certainly not in public. Certainly not to the police.
I thought that was funny. Yeah.
So I'm not sure whose idea that was, whether it was like George Lucas's idea or Philip Kaufman, who he did the story with, or Lawrence Kasdan, who did the screenplay. Somebody injected that little bit of juice into the turkey, and I didn't like the flavor, quite frankly.
Maybe it's definitely a product of its time, but
I think so.
Even if being a product of its time, I don't really feel like that added anything to his character, at least not positive.
I think it subtracted something from the character. Yeah.
Like, this is... Maybe that was the point, that Indy is flawed. Like, he's not...
That's a pretty big fucking flaw. Fucking big flaw.
That's not a flaw you want to give your characters.
I would have to agree with you. So... I don't know. I'm kind of stuck.
That's true.
I'm kind of having a hard time getting over that hurdle.
That's true.
You know what I mean? But they talk about it for like 3 sentences, and then they're just like, anyway, let's talk about the medallion now.
Yeah.
And so Indiana Jones is a creep.
Established.
It's established.
It's canon. Yeah, it's canon.
But now that she's in her 20s, he still likes her, and so like, is that like supposed to be the redeeming thing, that like he still likes her now that she's not?
Yeah. Do you think? Yeah, because he kisses her later into the movie, right?
Yeah. Well, they kiss each other. You know, she seems to forgive him pretty quickly.
She was tied down, and he gave her a kiss. He untied only her mouth, gave her a kiss, and then gagged her again.
That's the scene. So they're in Cairo, and he's digging, and he's trying to avoid the Nazis, and he goes to this tent and just sees her by surprise, and he just goes, "I have to keep this gagging you and keep you tied up because reasons."
Yeah. Which I think it's either there were no other women in camp, so maybe like walking around with a woman will call attention to you. Also, if they find that she's gone, right, they'll probably start looking for them. Yeah, they would know Indy's there.
You know, when you mentioned that, you're right. There was no other women in this whole movie.
Yeah,
she was the only one.
No, there was
the wife. Salah's wife.
Yeah, with the kids.
Yeah. Okay, so there's like one other. But you got to wonder if there was like other women. You know, would Indy have been like?
Well, the classroom. They use all their extras in the classroom.
You know, he didn't go after them.
There was only like 2 guys in that classroom.
And one of them gave him an apple. Do you remember?
Yeah, one of them gave him an apple.
That was a little weird, wasn't it? So anyway, right? So he's in Nepal,
right?
And he's like, "Hey, chica, hey, ex-girlfriend, you got that medallion?" And she's like, "Come back tomorrow."
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Okay, cool, bye." Oh, another thing I want to mention: when he first enters her bar, they have this like lighting from behind them where he has a huge shadow against the wall, and she's like there, and her shadow's against the wall, and like I thought that was kind of cool because like symbolically he's a shadow in her life, right?
Yeah.
And she didn't know if he'd ever come back, and then she goes, "I always knew he'd walk back into my bar or into my life one day," and like that, I thought that was kind of a really cool moment, and like great symbolism and great sort of blocking and everything like that, and a very cool shot. Like that's one that stands out in my mind is that shadow scene.
The first line after she says that, she says something about having 10 years to process it or work through it, right? She mentioned something like that.
Yeah,
which I think adds to that theme.
They do sort of like silently imply that she hasn't had any other relationships in the 10 years since he like left her. She's like holding out for him, and like that's extremely unrealistic. But like that's what they're implying, you know, is that she's loyal to Indy, you know, and
I think his appearance is also very iconic, so you can recognize him just from his silhouette.
So that's
pretty good.
You were mentioning earlier in the introduction scene when they're going through the jungle in Peru to find this temple.
Yeah.
Before you even see him, you see the cowboy hat, you see the whip on his thing, and like the jacket and everything, and the way that he stands, and then you see him whip the guy's hand, right? They really do introduce like his actions, like before they even show his face, and that's a really great way to introduce him. And also that scene when he whips the guy's arm, that's been parodied a bunch as well. You know the Weird Al?
Good. It's really good. Yeah.
You ever seen the Weird Al movie UHF before?
No.
So Weird Al did a movie in the 80s, and he does a parody of that in the beginning, where he's going through the jungle and he whips somebody, but the guy's arm falls off, and so he whips at the guy's like right arm, but a left arm falls on the ground in UHF. It's funny. It's like that's a real.
I like him. Weird Al. That's cool.
I mean, so anyway, whatever. There's a big fight scene in Nepal when the Nazis show up, and they're like, "Hey there, Fraulein, I would like the golden medallion too." And she's like, "No."
And they came in right after he left.
Immediately.
They must have seen each other.
They must have passed each other like, on the door or something like that.
They must have,
Which I guess is how he knew that they were in there, because he comes.
He comes back. Yeah.
And it's a bit of a botched fight in that like Indy, gets bashed by a door and they're about to burn him in the face when she grabs a liquor ball and he smashes him. And then him and one of the Mongolians or Nepalese shoot a guy together. It's like, it was really, that like is the first scene where I think the slapstick gets really introduced.
I like how the leader goes, shoot them while holding a gun.
Major Tote. Yeah, he had a gun.
Shoot them holding a gun, and he didn't shoot anyone.
So that guy's name was Major Tote.
Tote?
Yeah, T-O-H-T, according to what I've written down here.
Yeah.
And he's hapless. Yeah. I mean, he botches everything.
Did he do anything throughout the movie?
The only thing he did was he burned his hand with that medallion, and apparently what I gather is that they made a replica of the medallion based off of the burn in his hand.
Oh.
But it only had the writing on half of it, and there was other writing on the other half, this special MacGuffin medallion here. And so anyway, Indy, and the girl go to Cairo, right, with this medallion, and they meet his friend Saleh.
Yeah.
And Saleh's like, I guess, an Egyptian, an old friend, and his job is to be an excavator.
Yeah, an excavator.
And so the Nazis, are digging, and so I guess they hired him, like his company, to start digging in that area. So his workers were like helping them, which is why he told them or whatever. I guess that's Saleh's role, besides saving Indiana Jones like 1,000,000 times. But Saleh's like, oh yes, this is a cool medallion. I know a guy that knows this language. And so they meet this imam, or like this fortune teller kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And that was after this scene in the streets of Cairo. Where
they got recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And he got recognized in the streets of Cairo, and they got into another Scooby-Doo type fight action scene.
It really is so much like Scooby-Doo. They steal Marion and they're running down one alleyway and he turns down that alleyway and they're on another alleyway behind him. She goes to one door and comes out another door and it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Very slapstick.
But it's extremely comedy.
When the guy got skewered and turns out like apples got stuck into the soil.
Yeah, they're at a bazaar. And he stabs the guy, and there's no fruits behind him at all. But when the camera cuts to the other side and he's pulling the sword back through him, there's like apples stuck on the sword. So I'm like, what the?
Again, the movie's extremely self-aware, and all this is carefully put together. It's not out of place. Nothing that happens is out of place, including the apples on the skewer.
I mean, I think that was like a fun sequence, right? Despite the goofiness, but like one of the things that I think is interesting about this is that Indiana Jones is constantly like in danger and like getting out of it. So like right from the beginning of the movie, the guy tries to shoot him, he slaps him, he goes in the thing and booby traps are firing arrows at him and it's like getting stuck in like a stick in front of him.
What I thought about, when he swaps the idol and runs out and the arrows start shooting and none of them hit him? Because I think the arrow traps are made to go in. Because that's where someone will come. Yeah. Now go out. So as he's running, the traps shoot behind him, not really in front of him.
And the other thing is he's allegedly going so fast that he's running past them. Also, he jumps over this little chasm right after the guy wouldn't give him his whip to swing over the chasm. And so he's climbing up and he reaches for like a root that's growing out of the ground and he starts climbing up it. The root slips. It's like constant hijinks with this guy. In that scene at the end of it, Marion allegedly is in the back of a truck and so he shoots the truck, you know what I mean? And the truck explodes and everything.
He shoots the guy that's hanging out.
The shooting. And the driver.
And did he shoot the driver? Or because I think the driver got
both of them.
Hit with something on the head?
I think he shot him in the head as he was driving by. And then he, drove into a wall or he turned the steering wheel and the thing rolled over. And
that's something, too, that I kind of didn't really expect. Lots of people die in this movie. He kills a ton of people.
Marion kills people where she gets in like a Nazi stealth bomber and like just opens fire on like 30 guys.
They're Nazis. They're not real people.
They're not.
You can kill them.
Other hijinks he gets in is the Nazis just, he finds where the real Ark of the Covenant is first, where the Nazis are digging in the wrong place, blah, 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 who cares? Plot details. And so they discover that he's in there and they just, instead of killing him, they just drop him and Marion in the hole and cover the hole. And like, bye, you're going to die in there forever. And they're like, oh, this sucks. Oh, wait a minute. There's a side door right there.
Right
6
there.
feet to the left.
6 feet to the left. That was the only point in the movie where I couldn't maintain.
Like the believability.
Yeah, I forgot the word for that.
Immersion.
Yeah, the immersion. It was like they've been trying to look for this thing, and they've been looking for it for a long time.
The MacGuffin.
Yeah, the
Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant. I keep forgetting.
It's okay.
It's like it's in the name.
Yeah. Yes. The Ark. Yeah.
I keep forgetting. And so yeah, he finds this tunnel right by where it was buried. And they've been looking for this thing forever, and they needed to use the medallion to just be able to pinpoint where it was buried.
Yeah.
And once they get locked in, there is a door where they walk a couple feet, and he pushes a cinder block and comes out right to a structure right next to where they had their planes. The Nazis had their plane, and it's like, so they've been looking for years for something that they park right next to.
Yes, they literally, their hangar was 7 feet from the Ark of the Covenant.
That was the one time in the movie, because like I understand everything in the movie, and I understand how movies were made at the time, and nothing of it was immersion breaking for me except that one moment.
So like, let's talk about another famous MacGuffin, which is National Treasure, right? Where was that? Well, it's buried underneath the White House, or underneath the Liberty Bell or some shit. Underneath.
Was it under the Liberty Bell?
I can't remember, but like he has to dig under this like underground chasm that's been abandoned for hundreds of years or whatever to find the thing, you know. And like that was fun, right? This one was just like we're over there.
Yeah, it was. That was, So after they get the MacGuffin, and then we have the chase scene in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. Where he catches up to, because they had already left in the chorus. Mm-hmm. So he catches up to them and even passes them on a horse.
On a horse.
Which was perfection.
This is a horse that can do 65.
Love every minute of it though.
I mean, it was a lot of fun,
and the chasing was really good.
I think that maybe was like the highlight of the hijinks in there, because like he kicks a guy in the driver's seat, he's driving, and another guy shoots him in the arm and stuff like that. And he's running people off the road,
and when the truck he takes over. He doesn't, the driver, I think they just sit right next to each other for a while before Andy goes like, oh yeah, let me kick him out of the truck.
There's even a funny scene, where like, he gets distracted by some other person trying to come in the door or something like that. And the Nazi's still driving the truck, and he's sitting next to him, and they just look at each other and smile before he remembers to kick him out.
That was hilarious.
So let's talk about the ending too, right? Eventually, the Nazis do get a hold of the Ark of the Covenant, right? And it's one of these be careful what you wish for moments. So Indiana Jones basically decides, like, after going back and forth, the Nazis have it, he has it, the Nazis have it, they have it, they kidnap Marion, he kidnaps Marion back, blah, blah, blah. They infiltrate a submarine depot, whatever. So they get tied up, and the Nazis actually open the Ark of the Covenant. And I thought, like, this was, like, one of the weirdest scenes, like, in the movie. It's supposed to be sort of like this big thing, but I thought that the ending of the movie was underwhelming. Like, what did you think of that scene?
Well, in my mind, the whole thing, this was aliens. To me, this was aliens. And the Ark was like a device to be able to communicate with the aliens, but it didn't have anything to do with aliens. It was like a mythical, spiritual thing. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think he knew that to close his eyes, maybe from the medallion. Maybe, right? Because he said,
that's a good point.
Like you pointed out earlier, they had only one side of it. Mm-hmm. And the other side also had inscriptions. So maybe the other side warned him not to. Like, I thought
that was weird, right? Because they opened this medallion, and all of a sudden spirits come out and everything. Yeah. And he closes his eyes, and the spirits kill all the Nazis except for him, right? Let's see.
And does it only kill them? Because he, like, absorbs them, right?
Yeah.
Well, it kills them and then takes all their bodies?
We got a little more than 30 seconds, so tell me your final thoughts and score.
Honestly, it's a great watch. I can't see really anything wrong with it. It's such a good movie. It's very influential. You will see a lot of things that fueled other movies.
Yeah.
I'll give it an 8, solid.
An 8?
Yeah.
I'm going to go lower than you, and I'm actually going to give this 7. And I think that there were some problems, but the music was really wonderful. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The story was followable, but the ending I didn't like, and a couple other things I didn't like Indy being a perv.
Yeah.